happy to answer all your questions. I think the news of the weekend obviously was in part the fire at the Promenade, which was pretty horrific, but no lives were lost. People were evacuated, people went to the hospital, people went to shelters. Hopefully the building will be habitable by October 30th. There was about $1 million worth of damage. Everything I have seen thus far indicates that our county responded in a very appropriate manner, had all the people that you would want to have there, and made proper arrangements to open a shelter, and for those who needed it, that's where they went. But it feels like our county did what it should do in an emergency situation. Other than that, really, we've got Senator Cardin coming next week to meet with our council on the 30th at 11:30. Excuse me?
At noon. She said no.
At noon. Excuse me? At noon. But other than that, I'll just turn it to you guys. What's up in your world that I ought to know about?
Could you talk about the resolution to support increasing the RPS?
I can indeed. So we are in a world in which the federal government has moved backwards when it comes to climate change. And from my perspective, and I believe my colleagues' perspective, that means that those of us that serve at the local level and the state level need to do more. And there are some things that we can do that have immediate effect and that are relatively easy to do, and that is increase the amount of renewable energy that our utilities are required to purchase. California and New York State have made that a 50% requirement. I believe that that is something that our state ought to adopt, and that's really what the resolution focuses on, making sure that our state moves forward and increases the amount of wind and solar that are purchased by our utilities. Because for most people, we consume what our utilities purchase. So it's very important. It also creates green jobs. It's also intended to focus on workforce development and issues of that nature. And so that's the spirit with which I've introduced it, and I expect our colleagues next week will adopt it. Thank you.
Have you heard back from the state's Department of Transportation on questions about expanding 495 through 70?
I have not. I am hopeful that I had seen something. I'm sorry, Cindy. I had seen something that there appears to be a schedule for.
There is. It is on the schedule.
So I believe Pete Ron will be coming to our council. It's in November. I'll get you the date. We'll get you the date.
Okay,
So we
thanks.
do have a response from them that they will, in fact, come before us. What I've seen in other published accounts with respect to it is that it appears as if this is very much like what they did on 270, which was to say, gosh, here's what we'd like you folks to consider. Why don't you come back with proposals with respect to it, as to how to do it. But that is the purpose for the questions we asked, and as well as having that dialogue. My goal is to make sure that we are partners with the state in addressing congestion in our county. And my hope is that the governor and the Secretary of Transportation will take us up on that. All of us understand that congestion is the top issue, or one of the top issues that our residents face every day. So any serious effort to address congestion in our county is going to be well received. But the state ought to see our county as a partner in that venture. So that's my goal, to understand what their thinking is, what their thinking was, and to ensure that they will work with us in a collaborative manner.
It was also-
T&E, November 16th, 2:30.
Oh, perfect. I was also wondering if you could update us on when the council will take up this small cell antenna zoning amendment. There's been ongoing community meetings with it. There's one tonight.
There's one tonight here. When the county executive has something to send to us. So this is an issue that is very hard for our public to understand what the breadth of authority our county actually has. And so many of you appreciate that this is an issue heavily regulated by the federal government, and the ability of our county to do much in this area really is on the edges. But on the edges can be meaningful to make sure that at least these small cell towers are aesthetically pleasing, or as aesthetically pleasing as possible, and that don't harm residential neighborhoods. And so that is, I believe, the focus of the county executive's efforts. It was the focus originally of a draft ZTA here at the council, in which we basically have said to the county executive, come forward with a proposal after you've done your work. And that's what these public hearings are intended to do, is to get feedback on what the public feels about this. But I think the public is under the impression that the county can do more than I believe that we have the legal authority to do.
Are you saying that, speaking with people in the federal government, that it's not really up to the county whether these cell towers or antennas come to the county? You can only regulate the look and maybe the size and placement.
It's been a while since I've read the opinions with respect to this, but I think you're basically right that our ability in this regard is very limited, and that these companies, I believe, have the right under the federal government to move forward. We may have the ability to influence how they go forward, not whether they go forward. That's my understanding.
Do you get any sense that there's significant public concern about these antennas? And if so, what is the general sense of concern that you're getting?
I think the concern really is the impact on residential neighborhoods, and what do these things look like? I mean, that's certainly what we heard from day one, is how big are they? Are they ugly? Can we dress them up? So can they be of a size that are compatible with residential neighborhoods?
And are these going to go throughout the county, or are they designed for areas with low cell coverage?
Now you're past my pay grade. This is one that we have obviously been waiting to see what the county executive and his team come up with before we take it up ourselves. What else, gang? We're thin today, I told you. Could talk about Redskins. We could talk about everybody happy about Dusty getting fired. What do we think about Okay.
Was there a reason there's no council meeting this Tuesday?
It just wasn't that much on the agenda, and so when there's not that much on the agenda, to combine it with what's happening next, just to make more efficient use of our time.
The Elon Musk Hyperloop supposedly is going to go under 295. Any thoughts?
Well, I think this guy is extraordinary, obviously. He is one of these truly transformative players in the world today. Do I see myself in a pod, in a vacuum-sealed pod anytime soon? Probably not. Do I see myself in autonomous cars before that? Absolutely. So I am one of these people that believe we have to embrace the future, we have to embrace innovation, we have to encourage innovation. And so I'm a big fan of his. Tesla is, oh my goodness, everybody just loves them. Solar City is, oh my goodness, now the battery. So this guy is really, he's a genius. And I think when you have people like that, you say, you go for it. And if all it means is you get a utility right of way and you have the right to dig underground and try this, go for it. So you have maglev conversations, you have vacuum pods. I mean, transportation is going to change, between maglevs and autonomous vehicles and these pods or whatever they are called. Things are going to change, and that's good.
Rather than DC to Baltimore, do you want to do DC to Frederick and maybe eliminate the I-270 project?
No, we'll do the first. We'll see how it works. Wish I had more for you. Thank you.